Hi, my name is David Havman, and this is the silver monolith that I built in Nelson. I come from a family of builders. My father was a machinist for about 20 years. There was the first monolith that showed up in Utah. That was about a month ago or so. It disappeared, and then there was another one in Romania that showed up and disappeared. That third one showed up in California and was promptly torn down by some guys that drove up from Los Angeles. The funny thing about that is I'm originally from California, and where that monolith was built in California is like a 15-minute walk from my brother's house. Every time we go down and visit him, we hike up that hill. That's called Pine Mountain, so I knew exactly where it was at. I got a good laugh out of that, and I thought, you know what, Nelson could really use a monolith as well. 2 weeks ago, I just had, on a whim, I thought, I want to build a monolith. Went to the hardware store, and I gave myself a budget of $200, and I just looked at the aluminum flashing that they had available. There wasn't much, and I kind of laid it out on the floor, and I thought, okay, if I get one sheet of plywood and cut it 3 ways, I'll have just enough material here to build a monolith. So I was kind of determined by what I could get at the hardware store. Brought that material home, cut it up. I had much of it done on Friday night, and then Saturday night, it was pretty mild out, and I thought, oh, okay, I gotta get this done. I waited till after dark, and the first step is I needed to dig a hole and put a post in to secure it. So I came out here after dark, around 8 o'clock at night, and dug a hole, and it was a bit of a challenge. I've dug a few holes out here before because I built all these benches and installed them, so I knew what the ground was like. So it took me about 2 hours to dig a hole, get a post in that I felt was pretty secure. My wife worked until 10 o'clock at night, and then she came down and found me down here. She thought it was absolutely nuts. But then we took everything back, loaded up the monolith on a 2-wheel dolly, and wheeled it down here. And we were trying not to be seen, but I'm sure we made a whole bunch of noise. Anyway, we got it up, installed it. We were pretty proud of ourselves. Got home about 1 o'clock in the morning. Next morning, there was all kinds of excitement and neighbors saying, hey, what's that? And then it was about 10 o'clock that next morning. A neighbor came over and said, hey, your monolith is down. Came down here, and someone had obviously not liked it that much, so they must have done a huge body slam on the front of it. It actually broke the screws that I had originally put in, and then they left it on the side, laying on the side here. Luckily they didn't throw it in the lake or throw it down on the rocks, but it was pretty beat up, and that's why it looks so battered right now. So I had a bunch of things going on. It took me about 3 days to get down here and really tend to it. In the meantime, people coming by had picked it up and put it back on the post. So it was all battered, just hanging on there on the post, but still got lots of good comments, people having fun, taking photos with it. I think it was on the third day I was able to come down, dig up the post, put in some concrete and do some repairs and get it back in shape. I got lots of comments of people coming by, and one woman said, well, what is it? And I said, well, it's, you know, you call it a monolith. And she said, oh, I thought monoliths were big and solid. And I said, yeah, well, this is the low budget version. You know, it's so interesting that comments to see online, it's almost as if, you know, it's not solid and made of stainless steel, then it's really not worthy of putting up. Fair enough, but I just did something with $200 and some plywood and some aluminum. To see the smiles and happiness and all the people taking photos down here, it's totally worth it. Probably about 60 pounds, I would say. Sheet of 1/2-inch plywood with some aluminum and screws. Really just strips of plywood on the angles. So it's not held together by very much, you know, and I was conscious I couldn't make it way too much because we had to truck it all the way down here on a 2-wheel cart. It was kind of a last-minute decision to do the little angle on the top. I thought, hey, that would look kind of cool if I did that. I don't know if there's any standard plans for monoliths. I'm not aware of it. I just went with what I had. And seriously, the dimensions were determined by the aluminum flashing that they had at the hardware store. That's it.
Someone said, is it not true this monolith erupted from the ground during the last partial lunar eclipse and you're just taking credit for it now?
Sure. That's great.
Someone asked, why? Why'd you do it?
Just to bring joy. You know, it makes me so happy, and these benches down here have brought so much happiness to people to see them come and sit and just look at the bridge or look out at the lake, and I thought this would be something pretty fun to put up. You know, a lot of it started, I've been to Burning Man, 6 times? And every time I've been so amazed by the creativity and the artwork that people do there. And a lot of the artwork has no reason except just to make you think. So kind of the backstory is, in 2007, I had plans to go to Burning Man with my father. I ended up getting sick with cancer and I had to go to Vancouver and just about died, but I stayed in Vancouver for about 3 months getting treatment, and it was all successful. In that meantime, my father died. And my parents were living in Oregon at the time. Because I was so sick, I wasn't even allowed to go to his funeral. His death kind of canceled our plans to go to Burning Man. I kind of thought, you know what? I'm building this in memory of my father, because we would have done something like this at Burning Man, and I never got the chance to go there with him. So now, every time I come down and see this, I think of him.
How long did it take you to build and assemble it?
Oh, 2 evenings. I don't know. Let's say probably 3 hours total. Yeah, I was under the gun. I was trying to get it done pretty quickly. It was cold. I had some glue to glue the aluminum flashing on, but the glue froze before it set. So that's part of the reason why it's all wonky as well. It was a pretty quick and low budget monolith.
How would you make it better?
I guess I could use some heavier plywood. I guess I could use some angle iron inside of it to make it a little more indestructible. I would probably glue the aluminum on to the plywood really firmly in a warm environment before I assembled the whole thing. But I mean, honestly, I think it looks pretty good. I think it gives it character to see it all battered up and more people abuse it.
Yeah. Do you do any welding? Someone's saying maybe tack welding the seams.
Well, you couldn't weld this aluminum. This aluminum is so thin. I mean, you can almost tear it with your hands. It's so thin. You know, if I had a big metalworking shop, I would love to build something out of steel or of stainless steel, but I mean, that's pretty expensive. This was my $200 budget model. Is all I can really afford right now. Honestly, I wake up every morning and I look out, I can see it from our deck over there, and I look out and I wouldn't be surprised if one morning I look out and it's gone, that someone really hated it and just tore it right down. But you know, in the meantime, every day that it stands up and I see people out here taking photos with it and smiling, it makes me very happy. Any kind of public art, no matter what it is, it could be as simple as a little poster or a piece of paper. If it makes people smile, then it's all worth it.
Right on. Well, thank you very much for blessing our town with a unique piece of art.
You're very welcome. I'm glad to bring some happiness to people.